You are now listening to the LanceScurv Show, the boldest spot on internet radio.
Ben Carson said slaves were immigrants. Is this man losing his mind? I want you to listen to this dialogue on Anderson Cooper on CNN. And after that, I want to ramble on a little bit because that got me heated. But you know what? It's supposed to get us heated. That's what they want. It's a distraction from something else. But check this out. Listen to this. And we're going to come back and chit-chat. Welcome to the LanceScurv Show. Here we go.
There were other immigrants who came here in the bottom of slave ships, worked even longer, even harder for less. But they too had a dream that one day their sons, daughters, grandsons, granddaughters, great-grandsons, great-granddaughters might pursue prosperity and happiness in this land.
Well, joining me now are CNN political commentators Paris Denard and Angela Rye. Paris, as you know, this obviously got a lot of pickup, a lot of controversy, it kind of went viral. Do you think it's much ado about nothing?
Look, I think that Secretary Carson may have chosen to use a word that might not have been the best word in saying immigration, but I don't think anybody should take his comments during this speech as him not understanding the difference between voluntary immigration and involuntary servitude. I was reminded of a quote from that's been attributed to Dr. King, which says, "We may have all come on different ships, but we're in the same boat now." Nobody insinuates that Dr. King was either belittling the way or the manner by which African Americans came to this country or Africans came to this country, and I don't think we should do the same with Dr. Carson. What's unfortunate to me, Anderson, is that it seems as if with black Republicans or conservatives, there's automatically this rush to judgment that we are somehow unaware of our history or unaware of where we come from or why we're here. And I think that we can understand that Dr. Carson, who has an exhibit in the African American Museum that Smithsonian just built in there and just toured it and saw portions of it that talked about slavery, has an acute awareness of where we come from and how amazing it is so that so many years after slavery, he can be standing there as the Secretary of HUD.
Angela, what about that? I mean, is it unfair to, pinpoint one sentence he says in a long speech where it appears like he's speaking extemporaneously, he's not a written speech or on a teleprompter, and parse his words?
Well, I think at some point we all have to be accountable for the extemporaneous words that we use as well. Ben Carson said that black people worked for less. Well, I have breaking news for Ben Carson today, and that is, you can't see it on my shirt, Anderson, but it says we built this joint for free. We didn't build it for less. I would also tell him that I believe that Kunta Kinte had no longing, no deep desire to one day become Toby in this country. His identity was stolen from him, and he was brought here involuntarily. Now, whether they had dreams and hopes for their children who may have been born slaves and then became free one day, maybe that is in fact the case. In fact, I would hope that it was the case. But the way that he talked about slavery today is treacherous because it doesn't acknowledge that there were 400 years of involuntary servitude, 35,000 voyages across the Atlantic Ocean to bring black people here involuntarily. Right. That is what was wrong with his remarks.
When he said work for less, is it possible he was being sarcastic?
Do you think it's a good idea to be sarcastic about slavery?
Well, what I think doesn't matter, but yeah.
It matters to me, Anderson.
Well, you know what,
I think
Anderson,
it's an important point
to
dialogue. Paris, just really quickly, I think it's an important point for us to dialogue about. I don't think that it behooves anyone. It's not in anyone's interest, whether we're in Black History Month or now Women's History Month, to talk about slavery in a sarcastic manner.
Paris?
Anderson, I think what's important is that the room that was there, the Secretary received numerous standing ovations, and then after it was over, after the remarks, nobody had an issue with what he said. Matter of fact, the last question that was actually a comment to him was, "Sir, I actually was nervous about you coming and being the Secretary of Education." I'm paraphrasing, and the woman ended by saying, "But I just have a Secretary of HUD." Sorry, Secretary of HUD. She said, "But I am confident in your abilities now. I'm at peace. I know that you're going to do a good job." So I do think it's a lot of much ado about nothing, because the people in the room understood where he was coming from, understood what he was saying, and they swarmed him. Over 100 people stood in line to take pictures and meet him after these remarks. And so it was only after this report came out in the media which made it this big up to do about nothing. And I think the unfortunate thing is that you can take elements of the media and totally miss the moment that the people in the room saw, heard, and were proud that, yes, Angela, that after 400 years of slavery and involuntary servitude, that we can have people like you and me sit on this program, descendants of slaves, and have them at the Supreme Court, the President of the United States, and yes, even Secretary of HUD.
Well, you know, Paris, I appreciate everything you said. In fact, I just learned last week that I originate from a slave from Senegal whose name was Marie. And I just can tell you that humbling moment where I found that out on the plane thanks to some people doing genealogical research. I cannot tell you how this moment struck me, particularly in this administration, where so many things about black history, including our last black president, have been trivialized. In fact, maybe I would just throw this away as a mistake, and maybe he just had a gap in his judgment and a gap in his memory. But he has also compared Obamacare to slavery. This is an analogy that Ben Carson tosses around, and I think that he may have some severe misunderstandings about what American slavery really was and how it impacted lives, including those of us who sit here today.
All right. Well, we're unfortunately out of time, but I appreciate both your perspectives.
That was a very, very interesting dialogue. And it made me think about things on deeper levels. You know, it just seems like, my mind is racing all over the place now. This is 2017. How can somebody speak such foolishness? And how can we have a doctor attempt to be a politician? You know, because we forget Ben Carson was running for the presidency of the United States. And now, you know, he has his position now. But shouldn't he be over something that is more health related? And I wouldn't want him over me in anything health related, since he speaks like this. It's really shocking. I mean, see, wow. My brain is locking up, y'all. My mouth wants to go, but my brain is locking up. The reason being is that, you know, okay, we have this guy on Anderson Cooper's show, Paris Denard, I believe his name is. Where did they get him from? Seriously, you can't tell me that the modern day media, the media as it's always been, of course, it's a way to control the thinking of the masses. I'm not going to preach to the choir, y'all. I'm just going to go right on in. You know, what happened to everybody else that they had on CNN that was black? As soon as one president changes, right? We have a new president, everybody's kicked out. But it's been a while, though. Remember, through President Barack Obama's first term, CNN had a whole different crew of people. Was it Donna Brazile? Oh God, what's his name? Roland Martin, several other people. But now it just seems like, for whatever it's worth, to be on CNN as a black man, you better be gay. This guy, Paris Denard, he's a Republican, but he's also sweet. He's not as sweet as the sweetest lemon on television, Don Lemon, but he's sweet. Now, many in the LGBT community might get angry with me, but I'm just going to say it the way I feel it and see it. Okay? And I corrected myself once I got a few comments from those in the LGBT black community. They said, hey, we don't have any agenda. We're living our lives. We feel that we're born this way. We feel that this is the way we are. This is us. We're living our truth. Okay. That's a different topic. That's a different subject. But I had to pull back, not on what I feel, but I had to hone it. I had to focus it. Okay, I get it. Not every gay man and gay woman or lesbian woman is out there with an agenda. Let's not tell the straight people. Let's just do our thing and turn the whole world gay. I never meant that anyway. What I really meant was that it's engineered, because to push a gay agenda on the black community, now I'm not forgetting about Ben Carson now, but to push that on the black community is to neuter us. See, look, if you're not gay, it's not going to turn you gay, but if you're a fence rider, and the wind blows one way, you're going to fall over the fence the other way. It will make it fair seeming. It will encourage you. Like, okay, it's okay. I can experiment. And then you might get hooked. But I'm saying that to say this, that agenda is going on by the powers that be. And it's always us. We have 13% of the population in America, but our faces are there on such a vast platform, and we're always in the controversy. Now, take a man like Ben Carson, right? And not just him. It just seems like on a regular basis, that stupidity is coming out of the mouths of these people who can get on these platforms. It just comes out in regular intervals. It's something yesterday, something today, something tomorrow. They may give you a break for 2 days. But why on a Monday this comes out like this? And there's so much to focus on in the media. But when these things come out like this, it takes our mind off of what is really going on. There are laws being passed and legislation happening right now that we need to know about. Really important things that really make changes and take power away from the people. Not that we have so much power anyway, because they bend the laws and the rules and statutes to fit their purpose anyway. But we tune into CNN, and some people tune into Fox, unfortunately. But we take this as gospel. This will dominate our minds, and they'll have these discussions, get us heated up, and something slips under the radar. When you have someone speak like this, so stupid, a black man, and say, I'm supposed to be angry and mad at Ben Carson and rousing everybody up, but I'm not mad anymore because I'm kind of catching on to what's really going on. He's a puppet. And for those who love him, I'm not saying hate the man. Just understand that he has a severe disconnect and he does not mind at all being used. He's a safe Negro. He's a non-threatening Negro. When Paris Denard said they swarmed him after the lecture or the speech or his whatever you want to call it. Can you call it that? It's because he was, trust me. The people who swarmed him did not look like me. And there's a reason for that, because like I said, he's safe. He's non-threatening. He's minimizing the Black Holocaust. The controlled demolition of our minds. It's like hitting somebody with sand. Would you rather somebody throw a brick at you or sand? Well, if a person's trying to hit you, they really want to knock you out. But if they're smart and they want to hit you and blind you to hit you later on, they'll throw sand. And what do I mean by that? Well, Ben Carson's remarks will be forgotten in 2 or 3 days and we'll be on to the next one, right? So it's not a brick. It's nothing that monumental, but it massages our subconscious minds. Those of us who think right and are on point and are looking for that sleight of hand in this mental game of 3-card Molly with the media trying to gain control of our mind, we know better. But again, like the powers that be that are pushing an agenda, the LGBT agenda. And I'm not saying the regular working gay guy or lesbian or transgender or bisexual has anything to do with it. But they're not going to resist it because it's like, oh, this is in our favor. But why is it focused on us so much? Right? Look at where are the strong black voices in the mainstream media that are allowed to talk? And I don't mean allowed like I have to ask permission or they really have to ask permission. But if they say something they're not supposed to say, they will get cut. Slaves were immigrants. That's to minimize our struggle. And so many of us black people don't want to even face our history because you want to hang out with the cool white dudes at the bar. My white friends. And you know what? I got white friends. But they know how I stand. And they know I'm not going to come after them on some old black power, I'm going to beat you down type thing. No, we speak on a level of intelligence. But I'm not going to minimize my passion for anyone. And I don't expect them to minimize their passion or their perspective or bend it because they don't want to get me riled up. No, you're going to think the way you think because of your experiences. The way we think is a result of the sum total of our experiences. And the same with me. Doesn't mean anybody's right or wrong. We're all evolving and we're all developing. I get that. We'll be more keen, more sharp, more of what we're to become. A better version of ourselves 10 years from now as opposed to what we are now. 15 years from now, we should be better. If you're living life more cranky and more bitter and upset, then something's wrong. So we need growth, but we need to process statements like this. And why would he come out and slip that in? And of course, somebody's going to dissect it and it's going to blow up and go viral and have us talking about it. So for me, Ben Carson is an agent. Doesn't mean that he had instructions and this is what you're supposed to do, but he knows his boundaries. He knows his role. He's well off because of his profession and he'll be well off because of his role. They'll push him down your throat and say, look up to this man because of what he accomplished in the medical field. But politically, socially, and being connected to what's reality, he's failing. And why would you have somebody up there like that? Right? Another thought that is kind of off topic that revealed to me so much. I was thinking when I was driving earlier today on how Minister Louis Farrakhan is not really dragged through the mud as much these days. Could you remember back, for those who can, back in the 80s? Oh, back in the 90s. Back in the 90s, even the early 90s, as he was gaining momentum and he was speaking much truth to the people, and he did it the right way. He traveled the country relentlessly with a Stop the Killing tour. And he spoke to large crowds, small crowds, whoever showed up. But he got it on a grassroots level, speaking directly so people can hear him directly and not depend on a soundbite that will be so brilliantly, wickedly brilliantly crafted in a wicked way to make him sound like a madman. And so we had so many of our own people who heard that and digested the soundbite the way the oppressor wanted us to. And we would go on and say such negative things about the man and never sat down and listened to the whole thing. Now, it's well documented what Ben Carson said. And yes, you will get soundbited if you say something so stupid. But with Minister Farrakhan, they didn't like the truth that he brought in the way that he did it as one of the greatest orators to ever live. The charisma and the influence and the facts and the charm and the engaging spirit, the way he spoke. They had to take parts of what he said and season it a certain way, combine it a certain way, right? But now in 2017, and going back to when YouTube first started, right? The full speeches and all that he would say was out there for everyone to hear. So there are many. Who do you think is really listening to Minister Farrakhan on the various channels that upload his speeches? It's not just us. We know about him. Like I said before, from 2-3 years old, I used to listen to his record. White Man's Heaven is a Black Man's Hell. Muhammad Speaks newspaper was always in the home. And always in many people's homes. People don't tell you that. I've never hit it. My parents never hit it. But many in white America don't realize how deeply embedded the Nation of Islam is in our daily walk, even if you're not a card carrying member, even if you disagree with certain things, they were there. They were there and they have influence. I'm not a Jehovah's Witness, right? But one of those little Watchtower papers always ends up in my home somehow, some way. And I'm sitting here eating. I'm like, let me grab that and read it. I don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness, but they do have some good articles in there, practical articles, and that's how they suck you in. Now, I'm not saying Muhammad Speaks would suck you in that way. They just told it, right? So they couldn't turn us away. The mainstream media couldn't turn us away from Minister Louis Farrakhan, but they damn sure did to people that they were afraid would embrace him or understand him in white America. Whether they agreed wholeheartedly, at least they can say, well, you know, he has a point there. And that's what they didn't want white America to know. Because there's just so much ignorance out here. But now that we have YouTube and all of these, I mean, I used to have videotapes, boxes of them. And every day, whatever I was doing at home, I had the minister playing. Absorbing. Kept my mind right. And I was not, I wasn't in the Nation of Islam. But he spoke on issues as a black man, a black woman, things that we need, that we're not going to hear from a CNN, right? So when we go to these platforms like CNN, sure, you know, they have the video and the up-to-date whatever, but be careful how they're slanting the stories and presenting it to the people, because people fight and kill each other off this propaganda that's put out here for us to absorb. Isn't that something? And we take it as the gospel. So you look at CNN and what they present as a respectable Negro. And many of us who want to push our head in the sand and not see reality for what it is and deny what really is happening out here, will follow that. And it surprises me how watered down we've become. How can I put it? We're neutered. We're impotent. We're ineffective. We don't have that power and momentum that we used to have. And you look at a grown man like Ben Carson, for him to say that slaves were immigrants. Like they wanted this, and they had dreams. And you know, when you look at a guy like Paris Denard, he's a man who will never ever speak about black empowerment. See, I mean, Jews can do that, right? Others can do that. Gays can do that. Latinos can do that, as long as they speak under the banner of being Latino. Because the majority of them are black. So that's just to water us down and split us up. Don't fall victim to the categories that they put out there. Well, you're this and I'm that. You know, it's all about truth. Speak truth and let the chips fall where they may. That's what I believe in. Speak truth, raw truth. And you'll never be mentally sick like a Ben Carson. Because, see, he has to jump through hoops to stay where he is. And many men like him. It brings to mind, what's the guy's name from Fox? Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson. A coon in tow. Let's bring a black man who'll say anything to support what we say. See, we have a nigger over here saying this, and he's a good one. Give him a position. That's what they do. That's what they do in the outside world. On jobs. If you're non-threatening, meaning if you're ignorant and have no truth in you and are afraid to speak up for your own black self and your people, and you walk upright, and you're not going for the trinkets that they put out there, the trinkets of a raise, the trinkets of a nicer car, or you're making more money so you can move into a better home. And yes, we want these things. Of course we do. I work hard. I want a better home. I want a nicer car. To a point. You know what I mean? But I'm not gonna forfeit my manhood. I'm not gonna allow the oppressor to carve out and extract my insides to where I'm just a hand puppet, like a Ben Carson. He's not a black man. No, he's not. Yes, he is physically, but he doesn't have the soul. He doesn't have the connectedness. He doesn't have the fire. And this is what they do in the media. They get gutted black men or gutted black males, and they allow themselves to be used. And, a hand puppet, you stick your hand up inside of it, right? So basically, symbolically, a Ben Carson or a Paris Denard, they're bending over and spreading wide and letting the oppressor's hand go up their backside. And like that marionette puppet, they echo the things that are favorable to that oppressor. And those who are watching, they watch and absorb. They're not even thinking about things half the time. They're looking down on their smartphone. They're looking at porn. But this stuff plays over and over and over. And somebody's mind is going to be bent on this. Yes, slaves were immigrants. They came here too. That's to minimize our struggle. That's to relieve themselves of guilt. They have to have a Ben Carson in their presence or manufacture one. Who wants to be a coon? Come on up. We'll give you TV time. You saw how quick they cut me off with Dr. Drew. Bring me on all the time. I'm going to tell it because I'm not trying to be famous, trying to get money from you. This is what I do from the heart. I'm not looking for nothing to speak unless it's to speak the truth. This is what my parents taught me. Stand on the truth. The truth never changes. The truth doesn't get a forgetful mind. What it was, it is, and it will be. I just don't understand. And I'm Samuel L. Jackson. He went off on Ben Carson on Twitter. I mean, he went straight off. And I'm glad we have that balance. And Samuel L. Jackson gets along with people. He does a lot of work in Hollywood, and I'm kind of trying to figure that one out too. He gets so much favor in Hollywood. And there's a lot of things that go on there. And he can speak his mind, but he's not shafted. And I wonder about that. I'm not saying he's down with anything, but I guess he made it already. You know what I mean? If they stick him and say, hey, we're not going to have you work with us anymore, and he's blackballed, well, his name is solidified. Use them. They use us, use them. But yes, watch the people who they put up here to represent us, these hand puppets who are royally getting screwed in the backside with the oppressor's hand. And they share these words that they want them to hear and they want to put on us. Remember, we know better, but our kids may not know better. And this is why it's important for us to teach our kids what the real deal is. Because, when you have that big ship and they want to turn left or turn right, it doesn't happen too quick, like a rowboat or a small little motorboat where two people can sit in it. It takes time. But it's a decision that's made long before you notice that ship turning left or turning right. And I see a shift. I see a shift in the media. I see a shift in this country. And it's not looking good for black men and women. And when I say black men, I mean the black community. It's not looking good. They are gutting us. They're taking away our mission. They're putting too many things in front of us to distract us. They're having people that look like us speak these foolish things to permeate our psyche and neuter us and make us ineffective. So whenever you see a Ben Carson or anyone else who speaks such foolishness, you have to go deep into yourself and regenerate what your mission is. Ascertain what it is that you must do for our empowerment. Because no matter how black they are, when they get up on the television set, when they open their mouth, you see that there's another agenda. And no matter how black they are, they will never, ever speak about black empowerment.
Make sure to check out the boldest blog at LanceScurv.com and follow Scurv on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube under LanceScurv.